Battlefield 3, for many one of the greatest shooters ever created and a contender for the best Battlefield game throughout the history of the franchise, came out with none of the modern things that we find today, such as crazy gadgets, movement, or some tech that is super complicated to understand. And even with it missing on what today are basically shooter staples across the world, holds up in its super simple gunplay that is based on just two things: aim and recoil control. My name is Ace, welcome back to another Battlefield 3 video. Battlefield 3 is for the most part, as we established, a aim control game with some very minute movement techniques like jump peeking with a sidearm to stabilize your aim upon landing. But this was really never needed, perhaps maybe just some 5v5 ESL wire matches back in the day. So we are left with the almost pure aim slash control game, and today many of my younger friends and viewers would note that as a downside for Battlefield 3. And you know what, I understand their perspective. I myself am a big enjoyer of movement and complex systems tied to movement. In my opinion, movement is a skill expression. However, pure aim slash control games offer different kind of skill expression, and I think we have Counter-Strike 2 and Rainbow Six Siege as a solid examples of these types of gameplay. Well, of course, you aren't really gonna be holding angles in Battlefield 3 like in those games, unless you are a cheeky bipoder. The overall nature of Battlefield 3 was aimed towards being a more of a run-and-gun game a la Call of Duties of the era, like COD 4, Modern Warfare 2019, and so on. Modern Warfare 2009, and those two games also had no super complicated movement, they were very straightforward, and the gameplay is more similar to Battlefield 3. But unlike its peers, I think Battlefield 3 really brought a special but simple formula into the mix of just being an aim game, and that would be just the incredible amount of weapons we could use in that game, each with its own damage models, spread patterns, and different use applications depending on the map you're playing on. Now you might be wondering, how many weapons exactly are we talking about for this 2011 game? Nearly 15-year-old game, mind you not. We are talking about literally 80 weapons available in Battlefield 3 multiplayer. So as you can see, there was quite a lot of actually to learn and find the best way to control and shoot these weapons at the enemy team. And those weapons were, granted, split between 4 classes. Later, in my opinion, in Battlefield 4, this was done a little bit better. Not every weapon was locked behind a class. You could use carbines as any character, DMRs as any character, and so on. But still, 80 weapons in 2011 is absolutely crazy. Just a quick reminder, guys, if you enjoy my content, please consider leaving a like and a comment. Creating content for Battlefield 3 is becoming harder due to the game's age. If you want me to keep providing content for you beyond this video, please consider subscribing. I post 2 to 3 Battlefield videos a week and would love to see you again. Thank you very much. When you have this many weapons in a game that has no movement and you based your entire gameplay around aim only, you had to make sure that these weapons feel absolutely incredible to use. People really need to get invested in those weapons. And by God, did Battlefield 3 pass that test with flying colors. All of the weapons, at least in my opinion, sound and feel very good to use. From thunderous LMGs that echo throughout the entire map, or punchy but elegant assault rifles like what you're seeing M16 this entire video. They just sound right. How do you feel about the weapons in Battlefield 3? Do you like them, or was this not important to you? For me, it was extremely important. Let me know in the comments below. For each weapon, we were also given a respectable amount of customization for the time, such as flash hiders, suppressor, bipods, and all types of scopes to fit your playstyle or depending on the map you're playing. You can switch up in-game your customization for a weapon upon that, which was also appreciated. In my 3000 hours of Battlefield 3, I always felt like I could make any weapon work on any class. I think the weapon balance was for the most part on point. I mean, it had to be, right? For a game like this, where we are based just around aim and guns only. So the ultimate question is, should the new Battlefield game come out more like Battlefield 3 with minimal movement tech, or should it be more modern to include things like jump shooting, sliding, drop shots, and all that stuff? Personally, I have to say, for me, I'm well versed in both playstyles, so I generally don't care what comes. I will get used to it very quickly, as long as the game is fun. What about you guys? Would you go back to the Savage era, or would you like movement to be included as well? Let me know in the comment section. On the other side of the spectrum, we have all the wacky gadgets that we find in today's shooters as well. Back in Battlefield 3, the gadgets were pretty grounded in my opinion. I mean, we had what, a mortar, some mines, a propep, and a stinger. Like, it's pretty standard stuff for Battlefield. However, in Battlefield 4 is when we started seeing some of the wacky shit. We had slam mines, we had the UCAV, we had airburst and whatnot, and I remember many people disliking this back then. It was, in their eyes, about these gadgets taking away from the gunplay and being very annoying to deal with. I'm kinda torn with this. On one hand, this really provides replay value and also content for the game. Like, I don't know how many UCAV montages and clips with millions of views I have seen over the years on YouTube. So I understand this side as a creator very well. But on the other hand, I see what people mean with having maybe an abundance of this on the battlefield. It is the sole reason we had so many servers like no explosive walkers, no explosive metro, no explosive this or that. Some people really just didn't like getting blown up by these gadgets every 2 seconds. And I get it. And I think that right there is the solution. I won't get too much into that rabbit hole, but I think the easy fix is just having a server browser or some filter so, I don't know, people who don't want to play with these gadgets can play a server without those gadgets. Because I honestly don't know what the no explosive enjoyers would do in Battlefield 4 if they didn't have a server browser. It would be wild to think about that today. I know just one thing, I wanted to nail the gun feeling to be close to Battlefield 3 as possible. I'll deal with the gadget spam as a secondary concern so long as the core gunplay is fantastic. There are also good gadgets that are necessary for balancing purposes, like Battlefield 4 straw comes to mind. Get good with the straw and you won't have problem with helicopters anymore. For example, I guess I can mention that some stationary gadgets like maybe Boris turret from Battlefield 2042 that just holds some door for you and isn't super overpowered. I'm also fine with this too for the most part, because let's face it, not everyone is or will be good with straw. Some people just like to be a support type of player, locking down an area, which is why I'm mentioning something like the Boris turret. If we must bring gadgets like this back, then I think I'm fine with this. How do you feel about gadgets in general? I know it's a hot topic, I'm very interested in hearing your opinion in the comment section. We heard about leaning possibly returning in Battlefield 6, and if that is true, when you add leaning into the mix, it creates a more passive experience, from my experience. But it also depends on what type of leaning are we speaking about here. If we have leaning that isn't manual, like for example Battlefield 4 lean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but your soldier would only lean if you're aiming down sights next to a corner or some doorway, and you could not do it manually, like in, I don't know, for example Delta Force or Rainbow Six Siege. Because personally I dislike leaning, it always takes spots on my side mouse buttons for a mandatory rebinding, because it's just too good not to be used at all times. And these types of mechanics that are mandatory I generally am not a fan of. But as I said, I'm well versed in gunplays of basically all first-person shooters at this point in 15 years of FPS gaming, so if the game is fun, I'll get used to it. With that being said, like I said, bring the simple formula back. Let us have good gunplay with very amazing feeling weapons like in Battlefield 3, and then whatever they add on top of that, I honestly don't give a fuck, as long as the game is fun and it has those fundamentals done correctly. And with that, I'm gonna be closing this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. You know what to do. Leave a like, a comment, and a subscription, because playing Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, and all of the older Battlefield games before Battlefield 1 is extremely hard. I'm still trying to record a Hardline video. There's just no servers for me to find, so it's becoming harder and harder to play these games. So I need your support here. You know what to do. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.